Now, we're delighted to welcome to the studio a musician, historian, and legendary founder of that legendary band, the Wolfe Tones, and that's Derek Warfield. And Derek, you're very welcome. It's nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
You've been on the road a long time, haven't you? I mean,
yes.
Tell us, how far back does it go?
62.
Wow.
Yeah, I started performing and singing in 62, and of course I founded the Wolfe Tones in 1963. And we were together for almost 38 years. I broke up in 2001.
Why?
Well, there was artistic differences, and we were together a long time, and it was probably for me good because it gave me an opportunity to develop new markets and to do projects that I couldn't do within the band.
Because you kind of get fed up looking at each other a bit, do you?
I mean, no, yes, it's a long time.
Day in, day out, you know.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just thinking about the Wolfe Tones in the context. And I know a lot of musicians, fellas like Paddy Cole and so on, who are in a very different
yes.
type of world to you. You were always seen as a very radical band.
Yes.
You had political views. You
yes.
were to some sense associated with Ireland. You know,
yes.
in the very, well, let's call it the Republican context.
Yes.
Did that affect you in any way in terms of what people's perception of the Wolfe Tones was?
Yes, I don't think it did in the 60s, because in the 60s our traditional music and song was not seen in that light. The patriotic and so-called rebel songs were part of our musical song tradition, but they were not isolated. They were together with the sporting and comical ballads, and so when the Troubles happened, because of our tradition, because we didn't stop singing those songs, patriotic songs, a different view was taken towards us. But I felt that the narrative form of Irish ballads and songs have been sung in this country for hundreds and perhaps even thousands of years. And it's very much part of our musical heritage and culture. So I always took that view. I always felt that we should never apologise for the content of our patriotic songs and ballads that were part of what we are.
And did you feel that people, when they said, well, you know, the Wolfe Tones, okay, you'd started in the 60s, and as you quite rightly say,
yes.
you started in the 60s before that all started.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Yet you kept ploughing on through and so on during the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And particularly, I'd imagine, in the 70s and 80s, when
absolutely.
it was very difficult.
Yes.
Do you think people sort of almost said to you, come on, lads, lay off it, you know, you're only winding things up?
Yes, a lot of people would have said that, and even within the band. And some of the members didn't want to continue singing that. But I felt, and I was adamant that we should, because it was very important, I see, and as a historian, for us to record the events of history as we were passing through them in our lives in song and ballad and sing about them. Because we had looked into the past, and if writers and composers and singers and musicians had not written about their particular generation, we wouldn't have that history.
And any hairy moments, was there, in that time, anywhere where your fellows were threatening you or you?
Oh yes, I was threatened with death many times.
Right.
But I always felt, that I had enough belief in my tradition to understand, that it wasn't directed at the English people, nor at the English people as a nation, but rather at the politicians, army, and the songs were directed towards people like that.
Right. Well, enough of that. That's all. That's in the past. Talk about the now. I mean, you're you're a noted historian.
Yes.
What do you like to involve yourself in, immerse yourself in that respect?
Well, I think the most important aspect of my life and through my music and song has been that I felt that the Irish people abroad, their history and their contributions had not been fully studied or were not available in popular print. Mm-hmm. So I sought to study the Irish as I travelled, and it was a labour of love because I had access to communities that had been isolated from Ireland for generations, and I found that their music and song and their likes and dislikes were very similar to that at home. So back in the late 80s, I compiled 3 CDs on the Irish involvement in the American Civil War. 3 of them to do with the North and 1 to do with the Confederacy. And I completed those, and I'm in the process of doing another one now. And I went and, when I in Scotland, I did 2 CDs on the Irish culture and tradition amongst the Irish in Western Scotland.
The Scots-Irish, yeah.
The Scots-Irish, yeah.
I mean, there is, I suppose, a musical history of the more recent Northern Ireland troubles to be compiled at some stage. Is that something you could do?
Yes, there is, and like there's, it's a great tribute to the Irish people that they've always recorded their emotions and feelings in songs. It's a wonderful tradition. No other race or people have it, and it's probably the most undervalued of all our traditions. I don't think young people out today in Ireland should be deprived of that history. I think they should know, and I think it's very important. I think we have a very casual, and I only noticed it when I come back from America, a very casual attitude towards our heritage, our culture that we have in this country.
Well, that's a lot to do with how much money we made and then we lost, and people were focused on the wrong things, perhaps, you know.
It is, perhaps, but I think it's much deeper than that. I think that all our traditions, because of our colonial past, we had a poor value ourselves on what was accepted in our communities. We didn't just appreciate, and most people had to go abroad to see it compared with other traditions to see the great value that it was.
And what now for you? What's next in your plan?
The next plan, well, I just returned from America, as I told you. I was there for 2 months, and as a project I'm involved now, and I'm just completed a CD, 2 CDs, and a book on the Irish in the Revolutionary War in America, their music and their song and poetry. And I hope to have 2 other projects on mind then after that, and of course my new band has been a great success, and for me it has revitalized and re-energized my career.
Well, I tell you, I don't think I've been to a party where drink was flowing where someone didn't get up and try to sing one of the Wolfe Tones songs, very badly I might add, but so you have some heritage and some legacy that the Wolfe Tones has left behind, but in fact that Derek Warfield has left behind.
Yes, and I feel that, you know, that because, as I said, it's a unique tradition we have, and we don't value it in this country, but yet, like, it's been part of all celebrations. It's been part of every generation, the writing of songs and the singing of songs and ballads, and we should value. I think artistic attitudes in this country are a little bit like the way African Americans treat them in America. They had to come to terms with how important they were to their heritage. And we're not just alone. Lots of races that have suffered from colonialism and the lack of belief in their own traditions.
Makes it hard for them to accept it.
They undervalue them. And this is what happened, I think, in Ireland.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Derek, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you very much for coming in. It's
not at
to
all,
see you. It's legendary. It has to be said, Derek Warfield there, back on the road in his own right, of course, founder of the Wolfe Tones, historian, and I mean, all-round talented person, has to be said, and watch out for him because he's on the road again, and we're delighted he was able to join us today. Stay with us, we're talking about climate change very shortly with Professor John Sweeney.